もしやコスモでは。
Cosmo needs me free.
Cosmo AP Luxury Sports.
I'm positioning this with welding magnets to hold it in place for the first tack or two, and then the magnets will get removed. If they're left in, they kind of make the arc go all funny. Plus, the panel fitment will have to be adjusted as it's being welded. Well, you're ready for the moment of truth. So yours. The key with doing something like this is to go very, very, very slow. Don't rush it. The moment you rush it, you're going to start warping metal and bending things out of proportion. The bottom left corner is ending up a bit low, so I'm just trying to move it out a tiny, tiny bit. I'd rather have it a little low than a little high. That's better. Well, at this point, we're ready to start filling in the spaces between the welds.
I'm sure every experienced body person is shaking their head at my welding technique, but honestly, this is the first time that I've had to weld any sort of cosmetic sheet metal, and I honestly thought that force cooling the welds with air after each tack would be a good thing. Oh, how little did I know. Let's go really fast again so that I can condense about 40 minutes of welding into less than 20 seconds. 'Cause, you know, otherwise, it might be boring.
The metal warped a bit, so I'm trying to get it back into its original shape, or at least as close as possible, before I fill in the keyhole. The idea here isn't to bash the metal back into position. Encourage it back to where it wants to go, or at least so I've been told by bodymen. Well, I think I have to grind those welds down before I do any more pounding, but it is slowly coming back into shape. It wants to be where it was originally. Coming back.
You have to be just as careful grinding as you are welding to not overheat the metal, because grinding can warp metal just as quickly as too much heat during welding.
Now that that's brought down to one basic level, it should be a lot easier to straighten out. I've been pounding at this panel for about an hour and a half now, and it is slowly but surely coming back into shape. I got so much metal shrinkage when I welded it because apparently I did every part of that welding wrong. I used too thick of a wire, I used too much current, and I never ever should have used air to cool each weld after it was made. Every body person I've talked to said that I should have been using .023 wire instead of the .030, that I should have kept the panel a consistent, constant temperature instead of cooling each weld. Cooling the weld causes the metal to shrink. Shrunken metal causes the panel to pull. So now I'm paying the price by pounding this thing out with a spare piece of wooden brush that I have and my old machinist hammer. Whoa, I haven't done this much pounding since the last time I saw my girlfriend.
Now it's time to fill in the keyhole. The procedure for the keyhole is exactly the same as the procedure for the main door handle hole. Just cut out the old metal, clean up the hole, and then cut a patch panel to fit, tack it, then weld it into place.
Template's close enough. This smaller panel was far easier to make, and now all I have to do is just burn it in.
This time I'm using only .025 inch wire and probably 15% of the current that I used originally. This will go a long way to avoiding the horrendous warping that I caused when I welded in the big patch.
All done. Just tossing a quick coat of primer over the fresh metal so it doesn't rust, and then I'll start on the other side. I gotta strip the whole car down anyway, so this primer isn't going to be used. I'll just take this window out, then I can start on the driver's side. I would totally throw in I Live My Life a quarter mile at a time, just to see if there's a reaction.
I hadn't considered it, but I probably should.
This time I got the shape right on almost the first try, and what I'm doing now is tracing out the panel from the back side so that it'll make it a lot quicker to shape it, as opposed to what I did the first time, which was grind, fit, grind, fit, grind, fit, and then rinse and repeat. This should probably mean I can fit it in one grinding. Live and learn, I guess.
Notice how I'm taking a completely different approach in tacking this time. Instead of force cooling the welds with a bunch of compressed air, I'm just welding much more slowly and letting the welds cool naturally between tacks.
Wow, things suddenly straightened out. Trying to tackle the warp while I'm tacking this time instead of afterwards. A little pounding now probably means a lot less pounding later, which is what she said. Motion on its skin.
It does.
And now we let it cool. This time I'm working much slower with no air blast, and I'm trying to keep the panel only lukewarm.
Welding in the driver's patch panel took about 2.5 hours. I worked very, very slowly, spacing out each weld to keep the temperature low and consistent.
Well, even though I was really careful this time, it looks like the panel's still warped. So I guess it's time to do some pounding.
The idea when shaping sheet metal with a hammer is to not bash it back into position, but gently encourage it to go where you want it. 100 small hits are far better than one big hit. One big hit will just stretch the metal out, which is not what you want it to do.
After about 3 hours with the hammer and a block of wood, I've repaired most of the warping to the door. The final 1/16 of an inch will be taken care of by a metal-based body filler. But that'll happen after I reprime the door.
You can see in the split screen the panel before and after my straightening efforts.
I'm giving the inside of the patch a few coats of zinc-rich weld primer. This will prevent corrosion from attacking the fresh sheet metal I just welded in. This is kind of like spray-on galvanizing.